Karen Whitmore had always craved control, but becoming the HOA president of Pinecrest Estates was the moment she truly unleashed her inner tyrant. Armed with a clipboard, a permanent scowl, and a self-proclaimed master key, which was really just a copy of the maintenance key she had bullied out of the property manager, she patrolled the neighborhood like a dictator, inspecting her kingdom. No one was safe from her scrutiny. Mrs. Jenkins received a violation notice because her daffodils were too yellow and clashed with the community aesthetic. Old Mr. Reynolds was fined for leaving his garbage can out a full 3 minutes past pickup time. And heaven help you if your mailbox wasn't the approved shade of colonial red. But her favorite target was Lisa Carter. Lisa, a sharp-witted single mom and cybersecurity expert, had moved into Pinecrest 2 years ago with her son Jason. She kept to herself, worked from home, and, most unforgivably, refused to bow to Karen's demands. When Karen sent her a citation for excessive holiday spirit, after Lisa strung up tasteful white fairy lights for Christmas, Lisa had responded with a printed copy of the HOA bylaws, highlighting the lack of any such rule. Karen never forgot that humiliation. So when she spotted Lisa's new smart door lock, a sleek keyless system installed after Karen's last surprise inspection, she saw red. How dare Lisa make changes without her approval? Didn't she know Karen had a right to enter any home in Pinecrest for official inspections? Never mind that the bylaws said no such thing. That afternoon, Karen marched up to Lisa's front door, her master key clutched triumphantly in her hand. She inserted it with a flourish, only for it to jam halfway. She jiggled it, rattled the knob. Nothing. The door didn't budge. Lisa had not only changed the locks, she'd installed a system that rejected Karen's key entirely. Karen's face twisted in outrage. This was blatant insubordination, a threat to the sanctity of the HOA. What if there was an emergency and she needed access? Never mind that Lisa's security system included emergency override codes for first responders. She hammered on the door. Lisa Carter, open up immediately. This is an HOA compliance check. Inside, Lisa glanced up from her laptop, smirked, and took a slow sip of coffee. She had been expecting this. Karen pounded again. I know you're in there. You can't ignore the rules. Lisa muted the Zoom meeting she was in and called out, Sorry, Karen, I'm in a work crisis. Try again, never. That was the final straw. Karen stormed back to her SUV, her heels clicking like gunshots against the pavement. If Lisa thought she could just lock her out, she had another thing coming. Pulling out her phone, she dialed 911. This is Karen Whitmore, president of the Pinecrest HOA, she announced, voice dripping with self-importance. I need an officer dispatched. Immediately. A resident has illegally altered her locks, obstructing an official inspection. This is a safety hazard. Little did she know the dispatcher on the other end was about to make this the worst day of her HOA career. The 911 call connected after 2 rings, and a calm, professional voice answered. 1. What's your emergency? Karen exhaled sharply, her irritation bubbling over. Finally, this is Karen Whitmore, president of the Pinecrest Estates HOA. I need police assistance immediately. She emphasized her title, as if it carried the weight of a government official. On the other end, Jason Carter, Lisa's 22-year-old son, paused for half a second, recognizing the shrill, entitled tone instantly. His fingers hovered over the yo keyboard as he fought back a smirk. Oh, this was going to be good. Ma'am, can you clarify the nature of your emergency? He asked, keeping his voice perfectly neutral. Karen huffed. I just told you. A resident in my community has deliberately tampered with her locks to prevent an authorized HOA inspection. That's a clear violation of our bylaws, and I demand an officer come out here right now to force entry if necessary. Jason typed a quick note into the system, biting his lip to keep from laughing. Ma'am, just to confirm, you're requesting police intervention because you can't get into someone's house? Yes, Karen snapped. This isn't just some random house. This is an HOA matter. The resident Lisa Carter has willfully obstructed my access, and I have every right to enter for compliance purposes. Jason leaned back in his chair, grinning. He knew his mom had installed that new smart lock system after Karen's last inspection, where she had snooped through their pantry and scolded Lisa for keeping non-organic snacks in clear view. "Ma'am," he said, deliberately slow, "unless there's an active emergency, like a fire, medical crisis, or crime in progress, police don't have the authority to force entry into a private residence over an HOA dispute." Karen let out an offended gasp. "Excuse me? Do you know who you're talking to? I am the elected president of this community, and if I say there's a violation, then there is a violation." Jason could practically hear her nostrils flaring through the phone. He tapped a quick text to his mom. "Karen just called 911 BC your lock. Violates HOA rules. I'm the dispatcher. This is gold." Lisa responded instantly. "Oh my God, keep her talking. I'm recording this." Jason cleared his throat, shifting into full professional mode. "Ma'am, I understand you're frustrated, but unless there's an immediate threat to safety, this is a civil matter. You'll need to resolve it through the HOA's internal process or consult a lawyer." Karen's voice rose an octave. "Civil matter? This is sabotage. What if there was a pipe burst and I needed to get in? What if," Jason cut in smoothly, "Ma'am, if there was a pipe burst, the fire department would handle it, and they have override codes for smart locks. But since this is just about an inspection—" He let the implication hang in the air. Karen sputtered. "Just an inspection? This is about respect for authority. I demand to speak to your supervisor." Jason's grin widened. "Of course, ma'am. I'll note your request. In the meantime, I'll dispatch an officer to educate you on proper use of emergency services." Karen didn't catch the sarcasm. "Finally, some competence, and you'd better tell them to hurry. I have a very busy schedule." Jason hung up, shaking, his head in disbelief. He flagged the call as a non-emergency and sent the nearest patrol unit, but not before texting his mom one last time. "Cops incoming." "Play nice," Lisa replied with a single word. "Never." The moment Jason hung up with Karen, he could already picture the scene unfolding at his mom's house. He knew Lisa wouldn't back down, not after months of dealing with Karen's petty power. Trips. Still, he had a job to do. He dispatched Officer Ramirez and Officer Chen, two of the more level-headed cops on duty, with a quiet warning. HOA dispute. No actual emergency. Caller might be dramatic. Meanwhile, Lisa had already positioned herself near the front window, phone in hand, recording mode activated. She watched as Karen paced the sidewalk, arms crossed, tapping her foot like an overgrown toddler waiting for her juice box. The patrol car rolled up minutes later. Officer Ramirez stepped out first, his expression carefully neutral. Karen immediately launched into her tirade before he could even shut the car door. "Finally! I've been waiting for 20 minutes. Do you know who I am?" Ramirez blinked. "Ma'am, we got here in 4. Karen ignored him. "This resident, Lisa Carter, has deliberately violated HOA regulations by installing an unauthorized lock system. I demand you force entry immediately so I can conduct my inspection." Ramirez exchanged a glance with Chen, who was already fighting a smirk. "Ma'am, unless there's an active crime or emergency, we can't just break into someone's home." Karen's face turned an impressive shade of red. "Break in? It's not breaking in if I have authority." She brandished her so-called master key like it was a royal scepter. "This is official HOA business." Lisa chose that moment to swing the door open, leaning against the frame with a raised eyebrow. "Oh, hey, officers. Everything okay?" Karen whirled on her. You know exactly what you've done. Changing your locks without approval is a direct violation of community standards." Lisa held up her phone, still recording. "Actually, Karen, Section 4.2 of the bylaws states that homeowners can modify their own property for security purposes. And since you used your unauthorized key to snoop through my pantry last month, I upgraded my locks. You know, for safety." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Snooping? I was inspecting and, Wait, how do you even have a copy of the bylaws? Lisa smiled sweetly. I read them. You should try it sometime. Officer Chen coughed to cover a laugh. Ramirez, ever the professional, stepped in. Ma'am, unless you have proof of an actual crime, this is a matter for your HOA board, not the police. Karen's eyes bulged. Proof? She admitted to changing the locks. Lisa nodded. Yep. And I've got the receipt and HOA approval form right here. She pulled a folded paper from her back pocket and handed it to Ramirez. Karen lunged for it. Let me see that. Ramirez held it out of reach, scanning the document. Says here the board approved this last week, signed by... He squinted. Vice President Daniels. Lisa's grin widened. Karen looked like she'd been slapped. What? Daniels had no right. Ramirez cut her off. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice, and maybe take this up with your board. He handed the paper back to Lisa. Have a nice day, Ms. Carter. As the officers turned to leave, Karen stood frozen, her entire worldview crumbling. Lisa gave her a little wave. Bye, Karen. Let me know if you need help reading those bylaws. Karen's shriek could probably be heard 3 streets over. Jason, still listening via the dispatch feed, nearly choked on his coffee. This was better than he'd imagined, and it wasn't over yet. The patrol car hadn't even reached the end of the street when Karen's phone was already out, her manicured nails stabbing at the screen as she speed-dialed the HOA vice president. Greg Daniels, you betrayed me. She shrieked into the phone, oblivious to the neighbors peeking through their blinds at the spectacle. Inside, Lisa was already texting Jason. She's calling Daniels. This is about to get nuclear. Jason responded instantly. I've got popcorn. Keep me updated. Meanwhile, Officer Ramirez glanced in his rearview mirror at the still fuming Karen. Think we should stick around? He asked his partner. Chen chuckled. But I do want to hear how this ends. That lady's a Category 5 hurricane of entitlement. Back at Lisa's porch, Karen's phone call was going exactly as predicted. You had no right to approve that lock without consulting me, Karen hissed. Into the phone, pacing so aggressively her sensible pumps were scuffing Lisa's welcome mat. I am the president. Nothing gets approved without... Whatever power trip she was about to deliver was cut short by Greg's weary sigh, audible even from where Lisa stood. Karen, for God's sake, it's a door lock. The bylaws clearly allow security upgrades. And frankly, after you inspected the Garcia's wine cellar last month and confiscated their unapproved decorative bottles, the board voted to handle these requests without you. Lisa's eyebrows shot up. Oh, this was new. She made a mental note to send the Garcia's a thank you basket. Karen, however, looked like she'd been slapped. Voted? When was this vote? I wasn't. Last Thursday, Greg said flatly. You left the meeting early to yell at the landscapers about dandelions. The color drained from Karen's face. For the first time in her HOA reign, she was speechless. Lisa couldn't resist. Leaning against her now impenetrable doorframe, she stage whispered, Oops. Karen's head snapped up, her eyes burning with pure, unfiltered rage. This isn't over, Lisa. I'll call an emergency board meeting. Actually, Greg's voice crackled through the phone, now on speaker because Karen had apparently forgotten she was holding it. We're having one tonight, about your conduct. 7 p.m., be there. The call ended with a definitive click. For a long, beautiful moment, Karen just stood there, the silence broken only by the distant sound of someone's lawnmower, probably violating some obscure HOA grass-length rule. Not that Karen seemed to notice anymore. Then, like a deflating parade float, she wilted. Her designer handbag slid off her shoulder as she muttered, This is mutiny. Lisa smiled. No, Karen, this is consequences. From down the street, a car door slammed. Jason, still in his dispatcher uniform because he'd absolutely clocked out early for this, strolled up the sidewalk grinning. So, do I need to arrest anyone for excessive drama, or... Karen made a noise like a tea kettle exploding and stormed off, her heels stabbing the pavement with every step. Lisa high-fived her son. Best shift ever. Jason pulled out his phone, showing her the screen. The neighborhood group chat was blowing up with messages. Did Karen really call 911 over a lock? Someone please live stream tonight's meeting. I'll bring wine. Lisa laughed. The fallout was going to be glorious. And sure enough, by 6:45 p.m., every chair in the community center was full. Karen arrived last, her usual power suit swapped for a frumpy cardigan, the sartorial equivalent of a white flag. She never saw the recall vote coming, but Lisa did. And as the board president's gavel came down with a satisfying crack, Jason leaned over and whispered, "Told you smart locks were worth it." The Pinecrest Estates Community Center had never seen such a packed house. Every seat was filled, with latecomers lining the walls and craning their necks to see the main event. The air buzzed with whispered gossip and poorly concealed glee. Even Mr. Reynolds, who usually napped through these meetings, was wide awake with a bag of popcorn in his lap. Karen sat stiffly at the front table, her usual throne of power now feeling more like a defendant's chair. She clutched a manila folder labeled HOA violations, evidence like a lifeline. But her confidence was crumbling faster than her reputation. Vice President Greg Daniels cleared his throat and called the meeting to order. First order of business, reviewing the president's conduct. A chorus of oohs rippled through the crowd. Karen's face twitched. Greg continued, "Several residents have submitted complaints about unauthorized home entries, harassment, and misuse of HOA authority." He slid a stack of papers toward her. "Care to explain?" Karen's lips pursed. "Those are baseless accusations from people who don't appreciate the work I do to maintain property values." Lisa, sitting front and center with Jason beside her, raised her hand. "Actually, Greg, I'd like to add one more thing." She pulled out her phone. "I have audio of Karen admitting she used her so-called master key to enter my home without permission, and then called 911 when she couldn't do it again." The room erupted. Jason bit back a laugh as Karen's face went from pink to purple. That's an illegal recording," she sputtered. "Nope," Jason chimed in. "Single-party consent state. Mom was part of the conversation. Totally legal." Greg pinched the bridge of his nose. "Karen, you do realize impersonating authority to demand police intervention is a felony, right?" The blood drained from Karen's face. Mrs. Jenkins stood up, waving a copy of the bylaws. "And there's nothing in here about presidents having master keys. You've been breaking and entering." The crowd roared in agreement. Someone in the back yelled, "Recall vote, now!" It was over in minutes. Hands shot up, the vote was counted. And just like that, Karen Whitmore was no longer HOA president. The gavel slammed down with finality, and the room burst into applause. Karen grabbed her designer purse and fled, her heels clicking a frantic retreat down the hallway. But karma wasn't done yet. 3 weeks later, Lisa and Jason stood on their porch, sipping coffee as a moving van pulled up to Karen's house. The for sale sign on her lawn was freshly planted, and Karen was screeching at the movers about fragile items. Jason smirked. "Think she'll last a week in her new neighborhood?" Lisa snorted. "Doubt it. But hey." She raised her mug in a toast. To smart locks, petty revenge, and the sweet sound of justice. As the moving van drove away, the neighborhood group chat exploded one last time. Breaking. Karen's new house is in an HOA with stricter rules. Irony is delicious. Jason nearly spit out his coffee. Lisa just smiled. Some stories ended perfectly.